Hey everybody, when you save dogs, you need funding. Our next fundraiser is Putts for Paws 2020. 2020 because we couldn't do anything last year. So please log on to puttsforpaws2020.com to get all the details about how you can help us at this year's golf fundraiser. You can golf, you can volunteer, you can donate. We need you. I don't care if you're Tiger Woods. I don't care if you've never played golf or know what a golf club is. You can still play. It's fun for everyone. It's a shotgun start. Doesn't matter what level you are. Lots of fun. We need you. We need sponsors. We need players. Please, puttsforpaws2020.com. Thank you. Never get sick of this song.
I know.
Never do. Love the song. Welcome back, everybody. It's another edition of For the Love of Dog. In studio now is my boss. She's tough on me. She never lets me get away with anything. But she has a very special guest today. PJ, please tell me, who do we have?
We're super excited to welcome Fiona Cole and Carlo Cesario. I hope I said that right.
Right.
They have made something very cool. They made a four-part series called Mondo Stray, and it is about the stray dogs in Italy. And
a documentary. I love documentaries. It's my favorite.
You will like this. It's very interesting. And it's a lot about education, which I thought was really it's very applicable because we teach a lot of dog education to our people. So tell us a little bit about your documentary for some people who maybe have not heard of it yet.
Thanks so much for having us.
Of course.
Yeah, it's called Mondo Stray, and it's a 4-part documentary about stray dogs in Italy. So we basically traveled the length of the country and interviewed different people who are covering different aspects of the situation for homeless dogs in Italy. So it's broken up into 4 episodes, and that's basically it.
Awesome. Well, it seems like from what I saw in the first episode, I haven't gotten to the rest of them yet, but Dino is your dog, and you rescued him in Italy. And
Yes.
Very cool.
So is that what started it? Was that the impetus for this documentary?
Yes. It all started with Dino. Dino Fortunato is his full name. He's
Love
passed away now. So this is in memory of Dino. He passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh.
But so we found him when we were living there in 2010 by the side of the road. And Carlo's parents are from Italy, and so we spent a lot of time in Italy. But we were not aware of the dog rescue scene or the dog shelter scene. And through rescuing Dino, we basically had a look into, we visited the local shelter. We got involved with a bunch of Italian dog rescue people as we tried to get him back to the States. So it was kind of a complicated mission. But that was the beginning of our awareness of what was going on in Italy for stray dogs, which made us really think about, what's going on in all countries for stray dogs. And then, so it started out actually as a broader idea. We were thinking it would be a great documentary series to travel around the world and look at different countries through the lens of stray dogs, and just because we think of sort of the obvious images of India or Mexico, dogs stray on the street. But of course, Italy, you don't think, they have a ton of strays necessarily, but their shelters are full. Or someone visiting Los Angeles wouldn't necessarily know our shelters are full. So we got really curious about the question of this is a global problem. What's going on? Let's go around the world and look into it. So we pitched it to various networks, and we couldn't get funding, which is a usual story. They sort of thought it was too depressing, not entertaining enough. And we thought, okay, we'll do it ourselves.
Nice.
So
Love it.
We raised a very little bit of money and started in Italy, and it sort of has ended up as a standalone documentary about stray dogs in Italy. But we still dream of going all around the world. But for now, it's a documentary about Italy, and that in itself has been quite a journey, I will say.
Yeah, and when you see such a huge problem, just curiosity, you just wonder how can this be? You know it's bad where you live, and then you start to realize when you get exposed to other places, just how can this be? So we're just really curious about how it could be, how this problem could be so widespread and so big.
Right.
It is crazy. I mean, obviously, we're in that world here in the U.S., California specifically, and we're the number 2 state that for euthanizing animals, and so we are very tied to that. So of course we know it's hard in other countries. You don't think about it, but what surprised me, a couple things from your first episode, and again, you have to, if you're listening to our podcast, please go find Mondo Stray. It's on YouTube. It's really interesting. You will like it. They're short. They're really interesting. They're packed with a lot of interesting people. But what I thought was really interesting. Let me just keep using the word interesting.
We like that.
Yay! No, I hate when I can't use words. But I didn't know this, and maybe did you know, Steve, that in 1991, Italy actually banned euthanasia in their country. So they're basically a no-kill country, which I didn't know.
And how the hell are they able to deliver that?
Well, I mean, you'll need to watch
I guess I have to watch it.
So, but it's still, their shelters are full,
Sure.
So I thought that was really interesting. I mean, in your opinion, since you've kind of lived that through your documentary, do you think that's made it better, worse for the dogs? Like, I mean, what does that think?
Yeah, well, I think it's so interesting because for so many of us animal advocates, no kill is in theory a dream,
Sure.
but as Italy has shown, and I think we all know in our heart of hearts, without proper planning, that it quickly becomes a nightmare. And that's the case with Italy, the overcrowded shelters, dogs that sometimes spend their whole lives, in a cage. And so other measures need to be put into place for that to be successful. So I would say, I mean, it's definitely not made life better for dogs. It hasn't totally worked, as our subjects would say.
Yeah. I mean, in some sense, it's a positive thing that dogs are not being euthanized in massive numbers.
Right.
But then you get into the question of, but a lot of dogs are spending, maybe their whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a cage. And that is definitely not better. And the whole thing got kind of complicated by a profit model because
that's right. Yeah.
The public shelters get paid to house dogs, per dog. And so it kind of created a warped incentive.
Yeah. So it's per dog per day. So the more dogs they house, the more money they get from the government.
Yeah, and that created a warped incentive. And the law itself is really positive, and
sure,
and it's almost beautiful, like the way that it tries to care for dogs, but the way it's implemented and the reality on the ground is a whole different thing.
Right.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, you would think when someone tells me, all dogs should, get rescued and get freed, but I always say, yeah, but that's a dream to me.
That is, yeah.
It's a pipe dream because in my opinion, and I would love to talk about this, because of human selfishness, we are where we are, right? We've got way too many dogs. We have people that give up on dogs because they're not willing to put the work in. So I don't know how the hell we already have how many in the United States. There's what's the ratio of dogs per human beings? It's ridiculous.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, even if we all had 30 dogs in our house, we still wouldn't have enough people to take care of dogs.
Well, I think that that's a big part of it, right? I think no kill is, like you said, it is a beautiful dream, and obviously that's what we want to work towards. We still do very much believe in spay and neuter, right?
Of course,
we've got to stop some of that problem, but it can't just be that. And that's what I really, really enjoyed. I might say his name wrong. I am half Italian, but Oh,
are you?
Yes. I still Nicoletti. Still struggle with the very Italian name. So Luca Spinacchio, is that right?
Yeah, Spinacchio.
Spinacchio.
So he is a dog trainer, and he works with the shelters, and
nice.
He educates them, and they train all of the people and all the volunteers that work there about dogs and how to fulfill their needs. And the shelter that he works at actually looked really amazing. They have obstacle courses for the dogs. They get walked. They get every dog gets yard time. So that's amazing. Unfortunately, it's not like that all over, but I think that was a really cool thing that Luca was doing.
It's not. Well, I was just going to say what I was going to ask you. So what assumptions did you have going into the documentary? And then what totally blew your mind once you were finished, with production? Like what?
That's such an interesting question. I think for me, like my assumption going in was sort of all stray dogs need to be saved, and like a stray dog is a lost dog.
Right.
And as we got down into the the southern part of the country, it's interesting because the north and south are really different. In the south, they have free-ranging packs of stray dogs.
Right.
And some of those, in episode 3, we interview a really interesting man who's been studying them for his whole life. But some of those packs of feral dogs are actually living in equilibrium with their environment. They're monitored. They are sort of just happy without us, if we can possibly imagine that.
So they're a true pack animal, right? True pack dog, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, to throw them in shelters would be, a terrible injustice to these dogs who would be better off being left living in harmony as packs. That was a big turnaround for me, because I always think, well, dogs need to, be rescued and have a home. And in many, many, many cases, including Dino, they do need to be rescued and they do need a home. But this idea of like self-sufficient sort of, semi-wild or whatever feral packs of dogs was quite eye-opening. And also just challenging that assumption that they should not all be chucked into the shelters.
That's so
they
cool. That's interesting.
It's basis.
Yeah. And kind of following on that, just how important ideas and education are, when you're looking at an issue about rights, in this case, animal rights, but anyone's rights, so often what's behind that is ignorance,
Right.
and I, even though we're involved in this world, we learn so much. We look at our dogs and all dogs completely differently now than when we went into the film. And just looking at, they're fully developed beings with, so much complexity, just like humans. And, sometimes I think we get caught up in looking at them as a thing or a problem.
An asset, right? Like a cool piece of technology, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So just kind of, changing our way of looking at things, is important. Not just the laws and the nuts and bolts on the ground, but also, how your ignorance and your knowledge about the situation.
Yeah, that's why I think exactly. And we had the same experience, and when we started the rescue, we used to have a return period. They could return it and get a refund if they went. And we stopped that. And I'll tell you why we stopped that. Because I literally could talk to somebody at an event and they were adopting and asking me about the return policy. And it was like a pair of shoes they were buying at Nordstrom's. They were going to return it, on the last day that they could return it for a refund. And I'm like, this is not a pair of shoes, so we're not doing that. Or actually, it was Steve's idea. We're not doing that anymore. And it really did make people stop and think, okay, do I really want this dog? And we focus a lot on education. That is the core thing. We do it for our volunteers, our fosters, and our adopters. So our adopters, some people get frustrated because they have to listen to our spiel. They have to listen to the education before they can actually meet the dog. But again, we're looking for those serious people who want to put in that work and want that dog forever. And again, that's why I really liked Luca and his philosophy that the shelters should be run by experts. Man, that would change a lot, even in the U.S.
We get so frustrated when we go to shelters. Volunteers, the staff know nothing about the basics of dog behavior. They don't understand how dogs see the world. A lot of these people have great hearts and they're sweet people. But they just don't want to learn that. Well, I think they want to. No one is forcing them. Yeah, people are not. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah, exactly. And as Luca pointed out, no matter how good the law is, if you don't have the cultural attitudes to bolster that, then it doesn't really amount to much. You know. So that's what he's working on. And in each episode, we kind of focus on different angles. The second episode is all about spay and neuter, but we sort of went thinking it was going to be mostly about spay and neuter, and then we went off onto these amazing tangents with people about culture and philosophy and education, psychology, and it was a very interesting ride.
Yeah, and the educational side, like you said, is just so important. We were just watching Crip Camp, which is about the
amazing documentary.
Yeah, it's an incredible documentary about the fight for civil rights for Americans with disabilities, and you look at the all civil rights, and you think how you can make all the laws you want, but if people are educated and they don't have the knowledge, the law is a big step, but people on the ground are the ones that have to really do the work and do the implementation.
Absolutely.
Right.
You're going to say something?
Well, I was just going to add, kind of going back a little bit, you're talking about the dogs as you move south in Italy, about them being in packs. One thing that kind of was fascinating to me when we started the rescue that I've it's kind of parallel to your experience, is seeing homeless people with their dogs. And I can tell you, those dogs are always amazing.
They're better than my dogs.
They're very well behaved because it's a true pack life.
Right.
And the dog figures out very quickly, if I don't listen to my human, we may not make it. And there's always this great bond between dog and the human, right? Here, especially in Southern California, where you guys are, there is, I think, even more so this mentality of this is just an object, and they don't want to work on being the dog's leader, right? And things like that go south. And I find it fascinating that these people are wanting to take the dogs away from the homeless people,
Right. And often those dogs are much less neurotic than the ones living.
Yes, exactly.
They're usually in our experience, I'm sure there's exceptions like everything, but in our experience, they're very well taken care of. They are loved.
They're balanced.
And they're balanced. Yeah. They do live in harmony, like you said, with the environment, with their people, and and that's what they have to do, but they do it. Like I said, I would like to send my dog Nigel to a homeless person and get him in shape. No, just kidding. I think there was one in the first episode. There was one very early on in the episode. There was a line that you said, Fiona, that I loved. You said you had to put your game face on because you didn't want to come home with another dog. So obviously, I think all rescuers can identify with that and everything. So how did that work out? Did you bring lots of dogs home?
It was touch and go. We had rescued Dino when we were in southern Italy 10 years ago. We since had been back to southern Italy. I got involved in another rescue down there, mission to rescue a dog. And so I did have to put my game face on. It's one of the hazards of traveling with me. But basically, I fell in love with all the dogs we met, naturally. A couple of them really touched my heart, and I still think about them all, but especially a couple of them. And then in episode 2, we actually come across an abandoned dog, and I thought, okay, this is it. This is where I just broke down. And I was seriously trying to figure out how to get him on a plane, and luckily a local family stepped in and adopted him, which was a good outcome for it to be a local adoption and not have to put him through international travel and, of course, raising the funds and all that. But so it was touch and go, but I just about managed it. And Carlo's often the voice of reason.
Yeah. I was going to say, he paid the family off, didn't he? He paid the family off, didn't he? That's what I would have done.
I know, right? Yeah, we got to put the brakes on. But it's funny because I think we kind of represent, like anybody involved in dog rescue, you have to, like, your heart is hugely in it, but when you look at the size of the problem, you start to think logically, what can we do about it? And then you always have this kind of push and pull, kind of like we do, where your heart wants to just
save them all,
at least save that dog or save them all, but you realize that that's not necessarily going to impact the problem if you go about it with just your heart. But having said that, with Dino Fortunato, we rescued him purely out of our hearts, and
it wasn't logical. We were in a tricky situation. It wasn't like it was a smooth thing to do. It was very difficult.
And Fee was trying to, to help him and rescue him. And I was like, we can't do that right now.
But it worked out. It was a good.
And not only did it work out, it was great for Dino and great for us.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great.
So I have to ask this. I asked this question of all the married couples that work together, because Steve and I are married and we're partners. So how is it working together, on this documentary?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Lots of yoga.
Yeah, we did the same thing. Humble Warriors, my favorite. I don't know about you guys.
Yoga and alcohol.
Yoga and alcohol works every time. But we're actually really lucky because we do work well together. We have really similar values, but quite different personalities and skill sets. So we can work quite closely together without treading on each other's toes for the most part. We've also, we've been together for a long time, so we have worked on lots of projects, not just film related. So we've had a lot of practice collaborating. So I think that probably helps. And then we sort of divide up the work. For writing and conceptual stuff, we work very closely on that. For filming and editing, I do more of that. Carlo often handles the second camera, sound. And then in this case, most of the interviews were in in Italian. Normally we share the interviewing, but Carlo was doing the interviewing because he's fluent in Italian. I can get by, but I would have been lost without him on that front. So we do a lot of sort of juggling, but yeah, sort of we sort of follow certain patterns, I would say, in production.
Yeah, and then also, you know, we can both sort of do a little bit of everything, so that makes it good, because, you know, I can, when she's editing, I can understand what she's going through, because I can do it a little bit, you know, and you know, when we're doing the sound, she does sound a little bit too, so she
sort of mix it up.
Sure.
So it helps that we both kind of have our toes dipped in every part of the process. And then it also helps that Fee likes doing the hardest parts. So
does she really though? Does she really?
I'm a slightly obsessive editor, so that works out really well.
That's good. Like, that is good.
I'm the builder on, you know, laying down the bricks, and then he'll sort of give me the architectural overview once in a while when I come up for air. So yeah, we make it work.
That's awesome.
But yoga and booze, that's good.
Yoga and booze. That's my advice to everybody who's working together as a couple. And Carlo, it sounds like you also play the role of the voice of reason, which Steve also has to do that in my house, because he always tells me I'm one Steve McLean away from being a hoarder, which, you know, is probably true. Because like you, Fiona, I like every dog that I meet, and I think that they deserve a chance. And so, not that Steve doesn't, but he's more like, you know, we don't have that much money in the bank, you know, how are we going to pay our vet bills, you know, and so that kind of stuff. So it's a good to have the voice of reason. I do recognize that.
Yeah, it's a good balance, the heart and the logic.
Yes, definitely. So, you know, I noticed, and I'm, my head was in the Italian, so I was trying to pronounce this word, and then I think I realized. So I noticed you have you're trying to raise money to do more, to maybe film in other areas, in other countries. And I thought it was Indiagio, but it's Indiegogo, I think is what it is. I was trying to make it an Italian word, you know, like, what is that? So I think it's Indiegogo. You guys are trying to raise some money to do some more of the documentary, which I think would be amazing.
Well, we did that at the beginning. That's what we did at the beginning.
Okay.
Which, if you've ever done an Indiagio campaign fundraiser, it is excruciatingly hard.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever done one? They're very time consuming, and so we went in with sort of, you know, a lot of hope and optimism, but it was actually pretty challenging. We managed to raise a small amount of money, which got us to Italy. For the bigger project, we didn't raise enough to go around the world. That would be our dream. So that was something that we did do, the Indiegogo campaign. Awesome. But now I think we'd like to use this series to try and raise funding for the next documentary. So this film we did with very little funding, a lot of sweat, and we'd like to use it hopefully as a stepping stone for the next project that, you know, we'd like to work on. So funding in documentary is always so hard.
Funding in anything is so hard.
If you figure out the funding part, let us know.
We're right there with the rescue. I mean, we haven't done Indiegogo, but we have done many other fundraising campaigns, and it's always hard.
Yeah.
So,
exactly, you know.
Yes, I definitely want people to watch this. You must go to watch Mondo Stray. It is really, really intelligently done. It's you know, it's cool. It's also beautiful. It's in Italy, so there's some, you know, it's a little hard to watch in some cases, but it's just like, you know, just because of the dogs, right, in the shelter and whatever.
Right.
But, you know, at least in the episode, which I've gotten to see, which is one, there's a lot of hope. There's a lot, I mean, I was so impressed by, you know, you guys and Luca and that philosophy, and understanding that there are people there on that side of the world who's trying to make a difference, just like everybody else that, you know, that you meet in the rescue community. So that's cool. So everybody must go do that. How can people help? I
think... Yeah, that's a good question, because as I said, for us as filmmakers, just sharing, and, you know, spreading the word would make a huge difference for us, because as I said, hopefully, you know, the more views for this project will help us get another documentary going. But in terms of our subjects, I mean, we did a lot of research, and we were lucky to find seriously legit people doing very cool and good work. And so any sort of likes or follows or supporting of our subjects would be amazing, particularly episode 2 and 4. We cover nonprofit organizations. In 2, it's a nonprofit vet clinic outside of Naples doing amazing work. And in the last episode, it's a nonprofit dog shelter right down in the south in Calabria, again, doing very good work in a very difficult area. So donations to them would be amazing. And I think probably the advice you give your followers, you know, of the sort of, you know, adopt, don't shop, visit your local shelter, and try to advocate for furry friends who are homeless.
Awesome.
And just watch the film, because we live here and we're involved in the stray dog issues here. But the part of the reason we went to another country is not only to highlight what they're going through, but it kind of, when you go to another place, when you travel, it changes your perspective and lets you see things from different angles, sure, which then you can take back home with you. And, you might pick up, for people who are really involved, I'm sure you'll pick up something new from the film. And for people who are less involved, it'll definitely make you think. And that that would be a big help, to just watch the film and be open to the ideas that are in it, and bring those home to your local situation.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I learned a lot just in the first episode that I got to watch. Again, I was very impressed with all of it. Super amazing production values. Great job, because I know you did it by yourself.
Thank you so much.
And that is something that people don't appreciate enough. So, but yes, definitely great. Yeah, we'll share this out with all of our followers on our social media channels and our obviously our podcast, and we will put in the comments the people to follow and the donation links for the nonprofit shelter that you were talking about, for sure.
Thanks. That would be great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We're all in this together, and it's really nice to meet like-minded people who are really actually doing something and trying to change the world, which is hard, but it's good to see that other people are doing it, because sometimes we just get so closed in and we're like, why isn't anybody else doing something? But so obviously there are. You both are amazing. Right. That's great. And like I said, I was excited to watch the first episode. I can't wait to watch the next 3. Steve loves documentaries, so he's going to be all over that.
Anytime you need help filming, let's call me, because if I ever make money, if I can ever make money, I want to make documentaries. I love documentaries. I'll watch anything. I don't care. I don't care what it's about.
He really will. My joke for him is that he'll watch a documentary about paint drying.
Because I don't know anything about it. I got to figure out how to paint dry. I don't know. I got to watch the documentary.
Okay. All right. Let's get back to this.
We love documentaries too. And just to say that the first 2 episodes are out, and then we're going to be releasing the 3rd and 4th episode in the next couple of weeks. So it'll be 4 episodes total on YouTube by the end of the release. So.
That's awesome. All right, we'll get that knowledge across for sure.
Thanks for having us. Thank you for all the amazing work you do for the dogs.
Well, thank you.
You guys are both very sweet and very generous.
It's a team effort for sure. We need people like you to put that information out there for sure.
Thank you for being on. Do you have any other projects that you're working on now, or is it just this right now for now?
Well, this right now, we have some other ideas, but we're also talking to one of our subjects about delving a little bit deeper into the packs of stray dogs in the South. That's a possible film we might do as a follow-up. And we would also like to still go around the world, but hopefully a funder will hear that one day and think it's a good idea.
We need somebody to fund their documentary. That's so right. If anybody's out there listening, go check it out. Thank you both so much. It's really nice to meet you, have you on here. You're amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Everybody
for
go watch Mondo Stray documentary. 2 episodes are out already. There's 2 more that are going to drop. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you too. So nice to meet you.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
That's the perfect time to wrap up. That was so cool.
It was very
cool. Awesome couple.
They were very cool.
I love their energy. They're both,
I know.
They're gorgeous.
And they're
adorable.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, everybody, thank you so much. This has been another episode of For the Love of Dog. Please subscribe. Check us out. Take care, everybody. We're on a mission from Dog.